Welcome back to the Mid-Year Mitch YouTube channel. I'm excited to say that I just bought another project car and it's sitting right in front of me. So here's the new car. It is a 1960 Chevy Biscayne. So we're at the movies, huh?
Yep, we're at the movies.
Start the 60s right with the finest Chevy ever. The Chevrolet Biscayne of 1960. Beauty on a budget with all of Chevy's traditional economy, dependability, and quality.
So behind me is the newest addition to the Mid-Year Mitch fleet. If you don't know, this is a 1960 Chevy Biscayne. So if you're not familiar with the Biscayne, you may be familiar with the Impala, which is the highest trim level. They had the Impala, below that was the Bel Air, below that was the Biscayne. The Biscayne was the blue-collar man's car. It would have been the working man's car. It would have been a lot less flashy and just more of a car. But back in the 60s, Chevrolet didn't use the LT, 3LT, LTZ, all that crap. They were more creative back then. They actually came up with names for each car. So the cars differed in their exterior trim level, their interior trim. They had some more features that were available in the higher trims. And one of the most notable differences is on the 4-door and the 2-doors, they had a hardtop or a post car or a sedan. So the lower trim models had the sedan, which is the window frame around the door, and it had a post. So if you roll down all the windows, you still have a post in the middle. In the back, the only difference really was they're less trim, and there's only 2 taillights on each side rather than 3. The high trim levels would have had 3 taillights on each side. So they probably came from the factory either with a straight 6 or a 283 small block. Right now it has a 350 small block in it from the 70s, backed with the original 3-speed on the column. And then it also has the optional overdrive, which is pretty cool. So you can, when you're driving, you can pull that thing, the overdrive handle in, and it can freewheel if you're going down hills instead of having, it's almost like putting it in neutral and pushing the clutch in. So it's pretty neat. It's supposed to have a fuel economy. So the car is very solid, especially for being a 60-year-old car. There is hardly any Bondo in the whole car, which is evident in the condition of the body in some places. But the rockers were never replaced. It's very solid. The quarters were patched a little bit on the bottom, but other than that, there's no filler in the entire car. It's very, very solid. The frame is just as nice. It's very, very solid. And this is an X-frame car, so a lot of the support in the body comes from the rockers, and then there's the big X in the middle. There's no side beams that go across. That's where the rockers support the car. But it's very, very structurally sound, and it looks like someone was starting to do a restoration on the car, and then they kind of rushed it towards the end. The car's a little bit wavy here and there, maybe a little more often than that. But it's very solid, so It's very streetable right now. You don't have to worry about getting a couple chips on it because it's not perfect. And it's really cool for a driving car, which is what I wanted. So this car is a jewel. She needs a little bit of loving, but it is a running, driving car. So a couple things I want to do to the car is the interior needs a little bit of work. These door panels, there's just nothing going on there. I need to fix these up. So that's a project I want to work on. Another thing is the seats. They have these duffel bag body bags on them because there's green seat covers underneath. So I'm going to take these covers off and see what's underneath. See the condition of it. Maybe I can dye it. Definitely need to vacuum the carpet and straighten a couple things up in here. Maybe pay attention to the headliner a little bit. But you know, this is a 60-year-old car. So all in all, you know, she's in really good shape. The body is very solid. Rockers solid. The frame is really, really nice underneath. And this is a small block car with a 3 on a tree. And just listen to this. You don't even have to slam this. Look at this, just beautiful. This is just a beautiful car. I bought this car from a gentleman who had it, I think he had it for a little over a year or so. He bought it to fix up and sell, never got around to it. So I think he only drove it like a couple miles. So it was last inspected in 18. It might have been a lick it and stick it kind of deal. So I'm gonna go over the whole car and try to get it sorted out. It's a little bit comical under here with some of the roadkill style repairs on here. Zip tie to hold in the radiator. So there's a couple things. I'm going to make some brackets here. Work on the brackets for the fan shroud. The wiring needs attention. Just the way they ran the ground wire right to the top of the intake and then over to the alternator. The spark plug wire is way too long, and there's a lot of wires coming from the hot side of the battery. So I'm going to work on that. And like I said, the engine's smoking, so I got to figure out what's going on with that. Use some of those wire nuts on there. So I got to trace some of these wires back, and I think I just want to remove whatever wires aren't being used. That way, and then if somebody later on down the road wants to beef it up and add a couple other accessories, they can just run fresh wires and they'll have to deal with somebody else's hack job. You know, my dad drove this car home. It was probably about 40 miles or so, and the belt was squeaking a good bit, and I think I figured out why it was squeaking a good bit. It turns out that it is mounted. There are bolts in it, surprisingly, but it has the bottom mount is supposed to be like a C that clamps the bottom of the alternator, but you can see that there's a bolt in the alternator, but that bracket doesn't go through it. On the back side, that chrome bracket goes to the manifold, which is good, but there's another little bracket down here that's he's just hanging out, not really doing anything. So that's got to be addressed. The fuel pump leaks real bad, so I'm gonna have to put a new fuel pump on it. This is a 350. The guy thought it was a 327, but it's like a 70s 350. So even if it sounds real good, it sounds healthy and it runs good, it just smokes. So it could be something as simple as a bad gasket, because they kind of, as you can see, threw this thing together. The ground wire just goes over to the intake. So there's a lot of things on here that are just not kosher. So we're gonna go ahead and take care of some of that. But I think these front fenders and inner fenders are new. They're in really, really good shape, and the frame is in really, really nice shape. So I think at one point the floors may have been changed in this car from another car, and the trunk floor may have been swapped out too. But it's just a very, very, the paint job, I'll get to that, is not the best, but you know, this is a 60-year-old car we're talking about, and it has very, very little filler in it. The trunk's very solid. It looks like it was replaced, like I said, but it's nice. So I'll probably scuff this up a little bit and clean it up and shoot either, maybe put some POR in it or put some kind of like undercoat on it. And then I want to take these speaker wires out. It's got a aftermarket speaker in the glove box. I'm just going to get rid of that. So if somebody wants to add one down the road, they can do that, but I don't need an aftermarket radio, and I just want to strip out whatever wires aren't being used. But it's a very original, you know, car overall. It's obviously been worked on, but it's in really good shape. I always like these cars. I've always loved the taillights in the back. Growing up, whenever my dad bought that 67 Camaro, our buddy that we bought it from had a 60. I think it was an Impala though. So it had the 6 taillights. The interior, on the other hand, that was rushed really quickly. They didn't cover the seats. They just put kind of duffel bags over them, which you saw earlier. I took those off because they were horrible. They smelled, so I threw them away very quickly. And there were green seat covers, probably from the 70s or 80s. And underneath that is the original material, but both of them have been eaten by mice and it has old foams deteriorating underneath. So that's going to have to go away. The inside, she's all here, except for the armrests on the doors. Need to get a set of those. There's no sun visors in the car, so I need to get a set of those. May get a new rear view mirror just because it's pretty murky. But everything's here on the dash that needs to be pretty much. The original gauges, I don't know how many of those work. The speedo works, but I don't know about really anything else. But it's all here. You can see here's the overdrive handle over here. And it's just a really cool old car. It's the cool split bench, so you can roll it forward. You have plenty of room to get in the back. Back seat's nice and solid. Like I said, these panels, they're just boring. These ones aren't as bad. They don't bother me as much as the door panel ones do, because this is a blank canvas. There's a lot of work that can be done here. So that's what I plan on touching up. The headliner, it's blue, it's saggy, it's old looking. It's, you know, it's here. It's really not ripped or anything, but if I could, I'd want to put a new one in it, just to spruce it up a little bit. You can see the trim's all blue and these hangers are blue. So I'd like to carry through in a nice gray color, so that would spice the interior up. Maybe even paint the dash that color and the gauge cluster. But it's overall very solid inside. So this car is a very solid running and driving car. It's mechanically sound, but there's a couple things that need refining. So my plans for the car, I'm not tearing the whole thing apart. I'm not doing a frame off restoration, because this car is going to be built to drive. So a couple things I'm going to do is sitting in the interior. The green doesn't obviously look right. The foam's deteriorating, so the springs are coming through into the back of the seat. So it's not really comfortable. It doesn't look the best. And no matter how many times you vacuum, anytime you move the seat, the foam falls out. So we're going to start by taking off the covers. I already started taking off the cover for the back seat, and I'm making my own seat covers. So I'll have a follow-up video on that. But we're going to remake the seat covers because it doesn't have any, basically. They're basically junk. The seat foam, I'm recutting that out of fresh foam. So that'll be a whole series in that. Then I'm going to move out to the door panels, kick panels, and then the side quarter panels. We're going to put new panels on, because they're just plain blue. They weren't executed well. I think the fiberboard underneath may be pretty bad. So those definitely need attention. I'm going to dress them up, and we're going to make the car look a lot more presentable, because it's a cool car. The interior needs to be cool. So to continue with making it more drivable, I think it needs a new shifter. I haven't driven it yet. My dad drove it home whenever we picked it up, but he said that there's just a lot of slop in the 3-speed shifter. And with that overdrive handle pushed in, it was going into freewheeling mode, so it made it kind of hard to figure out if you actually were in gear. Now that that's disengaged by pulling the handle out, maybe a little bit easier to find the gear, but still, there's slop in the handle and the linkage, just the way they are. And the car has like 82 or 88,000 miles on it, so there's quite a bit of wear on that. So to make the car more drivable, more fun, and overall more appealing, I'm probably going to put a Hurst shifter on the floor and take it off the column. That way it's just a little more fun to drive. And then to go with drivability a little further, I may put a dual master cylinder on it to give you peace of mind. That way that you're sure that if one reservoir fails, one line fails, one wheel cylinder fails, you won't lose everything. But with a combination of freshening up the interior, going through the mechanicals, putting a new wiring harness in it, and just making it look more appealing, I think this is going to be a heck of a lot nicer car than what it is right now. And it's a nice car right now. The car came up, it was a good buy. I wasn't necessarily planning on looking for it. It just kind of popped up and we jumped on it. But I think it's going to be a really fun car. I've never driven something this big before. We've driven pickups, but nothing like this kind of car. So it's very cushy, it's very nice, and it's a big blue Biscayne. So I got to come up with a name for the car. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know. So that's going to do it for this video. I have a lot to do on this car, but right now I am thrashing on the 60 Corvette frame to get that thing out of here before I go on a 2-week trip to Texas. So hopefully I'll do some filming out there. I'd like to do a little bit of road tripping out there to see some cool car stuff. But I want to get this thing out of here so I can give my dad his spot back, because currently the only 2 cars that Chevy made in 1960, full size and a sports car, are occupying 2 out of 3 spots in the garage, and that's not going to fly for too long, especially in winter in PA. So my goal is I can get this thing done faster than the Biscayne, which has a lot more unknowns. So the goal is to get this car pretty much buttoned up by spring. So I want to enjoy it, I want to run it, drive it, take it to work, take it to cruisins, you know, go out to dinner with it, go on a couple dates, that kind of stuff. I want to have fun with it, make a bunch of videos on it. Like I said, 2020 is going to be a big year, and it's already a very big year because it's a really big car. But that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up. I got a lot of work to do on these 2 cars. I have some work to do on my 63, someone else's 63. I've got a lot of projects going on. I got to start tackling them one at a time, starting with that frame, then this. But I'm going to hopefully be uploading some videos here while I'm on vacation, or on a work trip, which is kind of a vacation. Vacation from the garage. I'll make a bunch of videos to catch you guys up on what I've been doing for the past few weeks. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing with your friends. I'm trying to grow the channel so I can continue doing stuff like this. And if you're interested in the car, let me know, because I'm going to be selling it in the future after I add my own twist to the car. So I'll catch you guys later.
There's nothing like a new car. And there's no car like the 1960 Chevrolet. The car for you and the USA. With the grace and go, with the room and ride that make them the most comfortable Chevys ever. All at low Chevrolet prices. USA. See your Chevrolet dealer now and start the 60s right with the finest Chevy ever.